Hello, we're in Malta. We have a really magical picture now. Magical, what does he mean by magical? There's big pictures, there's impressive pictures, there's scary pictures, there's royal pictures, there's military pictures, there's seascapes. Magical, I mean, I don't use that word very often, but this is a magical thing. I bought it in Malta from one of the best houses in Malta off a private vendor who was moving abroad. And his other things in the house, which I didn't manage to buy, were of such great taste and so well displayed that it magnified the items. So this was a mantelpiece in the dining room, and we went into this dining room and it was full of most wonderful antiques, displayed in such a lovely, beautiful, calm way. This was at quite a low level over the fireplace. It wasn't up high where it's looking down on you like you're in a court being judged. Very much in the room, where it was hung in a friendly way. Very hard to explain, but consider these aspects. And so you walk into the dining room and there were pictures all around, but not too many small ones filling the place. A few good pictures, and this was in prime position in that house, and there were 150, 200 things in there, all of which were just so tasteful. I mean, an antique is an antique, but there are pleasant antiques, and there are ordinary antiques, and there are ugly antiques, and there are magical, curated, selected, desirable antiques, and the sort of antiques you don't really want to sell, the sort of antiques you want to have with you and keep in the family. So this was a picture which I bought, and it was described as a 18th century picture. It is an 18th century picture, and it is Maltese school. And I've touched before in other videos on what is Maltese school, and I haven't really found an adequate written definition anywhere. Because we are in Malta, and a painting like this comes up, people say it's Maltese school, it's Maltese school, and it's right. And in years gone by, 100 years ago, the chance of that being correct were, the probability was very high, because the paintings here, it was probably Maltese. But as years go by and pictures become more mobile and they become traded, a picture is a form of currency nowadays, you can't rely on these assumptions that it's Maltese school. But I think it is Maltese school. I have limited experience in Malta because I've only moved here a couple of years ago, but what it says to me, and I am comparing it with other pictures of the scene, is that the children, well, I should rephrase that, the cherubs, now they are cherubs, they have two wings, they're not seraphim with four wings, they're cherubs. There's cherubs, and they are chubby, and they're happy and contented, they're welcoming, they are comforting the Madonna and child, the baby Jesus. This picture is called the Madonna and Child, whatever anyone else says it is. That's what I think it is. And to laden it with titles is a mistake, because I will go through some of the aspects of it, but it is definitely Madonna and Child. We can agree on that. She's wearing a blue robe, which is traditional. Doesn't always wear a blue robe, but it's nice to see a blue robe. The cherubs are contented. They're chubby. They're friendly. They're welcoming. They're not telling you off, they're not warning you. It's a family group, they're comforting, it's an ensemble. And as I said in other pictures, sometimes you get cherubs in the corner, and they form part of the border, and they frame the subject, but in this picture they're in the picture. And I think that it gives a very fleshy, comforting, magical feel. So we discussed this chubbiness and contentedness, and I think due to the fact the picture is slightly naive, slightly inexpensively done, slightly provincial, the definition is slightly muddy, it's not sort of crisp like you get on a really, really expensive picture in a museum, and the texture of it, and where I bought it from, I think it's a Maltese school picture. But you have to tie Maltese school to Italian school. The linkage is unbreakable, and the pedigree is straight. there are mountains of Italian pictures, and indeed Maltese pictures, with this subject. This is a formulaic subject. It's something that you would have in your home. Nowadays, if you go into a home, you'll see a Marilyn Monroe, you'll see a red Ferrari, and it's that sort of thing. People wanted a Madonna in their home, and what that meant to the household was it meant that they were conforming to the social norms. It meant it would bring them good luck. It would give them obviously an object to look at, but it demonstrated their piety. If someone came to the house and they had a Madonna on the wall, the people visiting would know they were a Christian family and they were the right sort of people. So it's a sort of coding, it's a social accoutrement. And within the picture there are some dimensions which I'll go through now. You've got this crescent here, and you have a snake, a serpent they call it, and the snake is at the feet of the Madonna. It's a very simple thing. She's standing on the snake, and that means she is defeating the snake. This is a crescent, and some people say this alludes to cow horns. I'm not really convinced by that, but I'm not sure. I'm going to read what I wrote about it when I bought it. The crescent has cow-like horns and arises from early Greek symbolism. And there's not a lot in that. So on to the next point of interest. Crown of 12 stars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Looks like the European Union flag, which is rather disappointing. So, crown of 12 stars. She's robed in sun with the ability to suppress the moon and darkness. So I think actually she is suppressing the moon and darkness. Crowned in sun. This oval, could it be the sun? Could be a halo. It's not a sunburst, but I think that is a double meaning. You have a dove, and I suppose you could associate the holy dove, the dove with the Holy Ghost. It's got Italian influence. It's probably got a bit of Spanish influence as well. What else have I written down? Well, I said it was at a home, but it could have been in a presbytery. You can imagine it in a large cathedral or church in Malta. The priests and the helpers and the staff would have a place to live, and it possibly come out of a church property, very possibly. But I think that it's or from a nobleman's house, but it certainly wouldn't have been from a low social order private dwelling. You know, it wouldn't have been a farmer or a worker in a village in a small cottage. It would have been in a smart house, or smart building at least. So look at else that was said. I think that is the main aspect of it. There is the lily as well. The Jesus has a lily flower. I think it's a lily flower. I don't really know why the Madonna has the brooch. I don't think she would have worn a brooch, but she's got a brooch here. I thought Mary was supposed to be poor and in flight when she had the child. But so you have this ensemble. You have some reds, you have some greens. It's very colourful. A lot of flesh tones, a lot of limbs, and very nicely painted. A lot of use of peachy pinks in the lips, which is you could associate that with quite early paintings, and a very friendly, pensive Mary, got her hood on, billowing clouds. I think it's lovely, as I say. It's been relined. This frame looks like a Victorian frame, but actually I reckon this is probably later than that. I think it'll be 1910. It is gold leaf. I think this is going to be real gold leaf. You can see that the lines where the sheets have been put on, they join and overlap. It's certainly gold leaf. I don't think it's a fake gold leaf. It could be, I don't think 100 years ago they would have bothered with a fake gold leaf. I think it's the real thing. Slightly deteriorated, but it's lovely. The mitres have opened up slightly, which is a shame, but it's not the end of the world. It's quite a plain frame. Picture's got some retouching. If you stand at the side of it, look at the light, you can see where it's had some work. I think it's had some retouching here. And overall, when it was relined and tightened up, they would have gone over it and they would have filled in any flakes. And it hasn't got a sort of shop-like, museum-like shine to it. It's not a gummy, tacky finish. It's not a dull finish. So it's one of these finishes where I say it's ready to hang on a wall. It doesn't look like it's just come out of a workshop. It doesn't look like it needs to go into a workshop. It's got that mellow balance, and I think it's, as I say, a lovely thing. But some damage to the frame here. It's been patched. A few spots on the gold have rubbed through. I'll show you the back. Quite a coarse relining. There is this frame I discussed. In fact, looking at it now, I think I'm going to correct myself. This frame is made of laminated wood with the zigzag joins. That frame is 1980s, and I think that frame will therefore have fake gold leaf on it. But it's in the mode and manner of a Victorian frame. This wouldn't have been style of frame on this picture when it was made. I think when it was made it would have had a very elaborate frame with areas of plain, panels of carving, panels of flowers, basic flowers, sgraffito type effect, which obviously has got thrown away, probably had a worm or something. So they put this frame on. So that, yeah, is a mid-20th century frame in the guise of a Victorian frame, which in itself wouldn't have been the original frame. I hope that is, you understand what I'm talking about there. So the frame is not old. Well, it's relatively old, but it's not original or even a semi-original. We go back to the picture, it's got this allure, it grabs you. And with a picture like this, you've really got to look at it and you've got to stare at it and consider what it is and what it means. That was a very important picture in its day and meant a lot to the people in the household. They would have, obviously, it's the era before television, the era before printed media with pictures in. And that was fairly sort of significant piece of art really to look at. It doesn't move, but there is movement in the picture. It's alive. The picture is alive, and to someone in 1750, where are they going to see this sort of thing? They're going to see it in the churches. They're going to see it in the big houses. But that's it. They haven't got this media that we all take for granted now. And to them, to their eye in those days, that would have been a very powerful image, and they would have understood the nuances to a much greater degree that I can, or the market does indeed. I don't know what that says on there. There is some Latin text, I think. I don't know what it means. So I hope I've got across some of the detail and the feel. They're not cheap. It's not, of course, it's not going to be a cheap picture. It's quite a big picture, and it's in quite good condition. It's old. And if you're going to buy a religious painting in Malta, or in Italy, or in France, you have to be aware that some of them are spooky, and some of them have excessive darkness, and some of them have pained expressions. And do you want to see in your home characters who are suffering? There's religious pictures, and there's religious pictures showing cruelty and showing endurance. And those are really not very nice things to look at and have in your home. This is religious, showing at the other side of religion. There's hope here, and there is the defeat of darkness, the defeat of the snake, the serpent. So this is an optimistic religious picture. The sun is dominant, and as I say, they're contented. So it's not black, it's not full of decrepit, suffering people. There's no gore. It's not Jesus hauling across up a hill or being put in a tomb. It's a happy religious picture, and there's a lot of youth there. There's a lot of life in that picture, and it's colourful. Very, very few of them have all this colour. It's got, as I say, it's got the blues, the whites, the flesh tones, the greens, the clouds, the blue sky, the sun. It's a very good palette of colours for a home. It's not a depressing, dark black hole of a picture where you can't see anything unless you put a torch on it. That's a bright picture. Okay, well, thanks for having a look, and do not be scared of these religious paintings. I'm thinking for the English and American market here, if you can buy a religious painting, your buying opportunities doesn't go out by double, but you know, you've got equestrian, you've got marine, you've got castles, you've got classical ruins. But if you can add religious subjects, then your buying opportunities have another dimension. And when you're buying religious things, as I've alluded to, I would suggest you buy the happy religious ones, the colourful ones, the bright ones, and avoid the gruesome ones. Thanks for having a look.